When death is not the end, a soul's journey after a near-death experience. Surely, each of us has pondered the concept of departure, wondering what happens when we leave this world. Is departure the end, or is it simply a door opening to a new journey? In today's video, we will explore a mysterious story, a journey of the soul after a near-death experience. Get ready for an adventure full of mystery, where life and departure are no longer simple concepts. We will meet souls, face fears and regrets, and uncover the truth about life after departure. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos. On a cold, chilling night, when the sky was blanketed by a thick layer of darkness, strong winds carried yellow leaves from the treetops, making them dance in the air as if bidding farewell to autumn. The wind swept through the majestic mountains, caressing the small village, where time seemed to stand still, and the peace felt eternal. In that pitch-black space, a strange story unfolded, surpassing all human understanding. This is not just a story about departure, but a mysterious journey, where life and departure intertwine, opening a door to another world that only those who have stepped through the door of the Reaper can truly comprehend. Amora, the young woman at the heart of this story, was full of life, passion, and dreams of a bright future. She lived in a small, tranquil village, peaceful yet lonely. Her eyes sparkled like precious gems, filled with joy and anticipation. Her skin was smooth and fair, and her smile could warm the hearts of all who saw it. Amora had a deep love for nature, so much so that whenever she wandered through the green fields or strolled under the shade of the trees, she felt as though she became one with the world, as if she were a part of the vast universe itself. Yet, her life was not always calm. She often dreamed of adventures, of journeys beyond her small village to explore the wider world. But fate had other plans. One day, while Amora was driving down a narrow, winding road, another car suddenly appeared from the opposite direction, speeding toward her at an alarming rate. She had no time to react. Everything happened too quickly, too unexpectedly. A loud crash erupted, followed by a whirlwind of chaos. In that split second, before she could fully process what was happening, everything around her faded into a blur, as if she were being pulled into a whirlwind of time. In that instant, Amora felt herself falling into an endless space, a place without beginning or end. This space was unlike anything she had ever known. Everything around her seemed to vanish, as though she had entered a realm that could not be defined, where time and space held no meaning. She felt her body slowly losing life, as though the threads connecting her soul to her physical form were gradually being undone. All her senses seemed to numb, and every familiar feeling disappeared. Darkness enveloped her, but it was not a cold or frightening darkness. It was a quiet, undefined void, as if it were part of the vast universe itself. At that moment, Amora felt an unusual pull, an invisible force, as if a current, unseen yet undeniable, was guiding her away from the physical world. It was as if she was being led on a journey she could not resist, a passage from one world to another. She could no longer feel her body, as if her soul was separating from her physical form, floating aimlessly in the infinite space, with no end, no beginning. Everything around her became distant and blurred, and she felt as if she were lost in an endless void, where there was only herself and the vast stillness. As Amora's eyes slowly opened for the first time after the accident, she immediately realized she was no longer in the physical world she once knew. Instead, she found herself floating in a strange realm where the rules of existence seemed to have vanished. Gravity no longer anchored her, time appeared frozen, and space itself lacked any clear boundaries. All around her was a surreal canvas where darkness and light intertwined, creating a mystical blend of colors with no discernible beginning or end. Above her, dense black clouds swirled slowly, like living entities that continuously shifted shapes. Beneath her feet, a strange path extended made not of earth or stone, but of faint threads of light, glimmering like spider silk. These threads stretched endlessly, weaving into a network that seemed to connect the stars, forming an ethereal corridor with no apparent destination. Amora felt an unseen force, gentle yet irresistible, pulling her forward. There was no logical explanation, but deep within her, she sensed that this path was her destiny. Every step she took, though her feet never touched solid ground, felt guided by a force beyond her understanding. Curiosity mixed with fear quickened her heartbeat, but at the same time, She was overcome by a strange feeling of faint belief that something profound awaited her ahead, an answer she could not afford to miss. Suddenly, from the depths of the shadows, a figure began to emerge. At first, it was merely a faint glow, but as it drew closer, the shape of a man became clear. The space around him seemed to transform, growing brighter with each step he took. The man exuded an extraordinary calm, as if nothing in the universe could unsettle him. His eyes sparkled like stars, holding a depth of understanding and mystery that Amora could not begin to unravel. He stopped in front of Amora, his gaze seeming to pierce through her soul, not to judge, but to understand. A quiet moment passed, as if the entire universe had paused to listen. When he spoke, his voice flowed like the music of a clear stream, gentle yet carrying an undeniable certainty. Amora, you are not alone. Departure is not the end for you. It is merely a doorway to a new journey, where everything you once knew becomes small pieces of a larger picture. Amora stared into the man's eyes, her heart swelling with emotions she couldn't name: wonder, curiosity, and a faint glimmer of hope. Though she still didn't fully understand what was happening, she felt as though she had found a guide in the vast, unending darkness. From that moment on, Amora began to feel a strange change within her body. No longer did she feel the constraints of the physical world, instead, she experienced a lightness, as if her soul had detached from her body. This sensation came from deep within her, as if an invisible force had lifted her from the pain of her physical form and into a new realm. She looked down at her body, but saw nothing but an ethereal mist. Everything around her was no longer like the world she had known. It was a mysterious and vast space, one where reality had no clear boundaries, as though it were an ever-shifting universe. Giant doors made of soft golden light opened before her eyes, each door resembling a heavenly scene inviting her to step inside. The first door radiated a gentle glow, sparkling like sunlight streaming through mist, guiding her into unfamiliar lands beyond imagination. Behind these doors were different spaces, each containing a story, a reality she had never known. These doors were not just passages, but symbols of the transition between different realities, between life and departure, between the past and the future. Each time Amora stepped through a door, she felt a profound change in the space and time around her. Everything in this world became hazy, with no clear boundaries, making it impossible for her to grasp what was real and what was illusory. Amora felt as though she were stepping into an infinite universe, where space and time no longer held any meaning as they did in the physical world. She could not see the walls or familiar houses. Instead, around her were streaks of light, faintly crossing the space like rivers of time. These streams didn't just flow through the cosmos, they carried memories, untold stories of souls that once existed. Here, everything could change in an instant, and Amora had the power to conjure whatever she imagined. Stars sparkled, giant rocks rose from the winds, lush forests bloomed with light. All of this was created by Amora in a blink of an eye, as though she wielded the power of the universe. However, as she felt free and fearless, she also realized that this world contained countless souls that had once lived, now trapped in memories and emotions that could never be freed. These souls drifted in the endless void, unable to escape the haunting thoughts they carried with them from life. Some souls were burdened with an unending pain because they could not leave, stuck in the past, tied to regrets or unresolved relationships. These souls couldn't find peace, they were trapped in endless loops of their past, wandering aimlessly in the vast space. Meanwhile, other souls displayed a strange serenity. They floated freely in the space, soaring like birds in an expansive universe. They no longer clung to the burdens of the past but sought peace, searching for freedom from the weight they had carried in life. Some found new connections, new reasons to continue their eternal journey, while others kept seeking ultimate liberation. Each soul had its own story, an untold tale, and Amora couldn't help but feel that she, too, was part of this world, a world where every soul had a purpose, a journey to complete before moving into a new existence. She met Lysander, a soul strong and resolute, yet there was something in his eyes that made Amora feel uneasy. Lysander's gaze held a deep-seated fear, as if he were constantly battling the ghosts of his past. He was unlike any of the other souls Amora had encountered. He did not float gently like the serene souls she had seen before. Instead, He stood tall, as if fighting against invisible chains that held him back, preventing him from moving forward. His body seemed to carry the scars of a battle fought long ago, wounds that could never heal in this world. Lysander had passed away in a fierce battle long ago, a battle he could never forget. He had once been a brave warrior, but the price of victory had left him with wounds in his soul that could never be erased. For a long time, unable to move on, he was trapped in haunting memories of the loss of his comrades and the wrong decisions he had made in moments of haste. Lysander felt that it was those very mistakes that kept him from moving on to the other side, from being freed from the pain within. He could not forgive himself, and this held him back, preventing him from moving forward. When Amora appeared, he knew that she was not the only one facing a difficult choice. Lysander looked at her with worry in his eyes and said, "Amora, do not continue. The world beyond is not an easy place. Souls like us cannot simply step into it and find peace. The regrets, the mistakes, will follow you forever if you don't resolve them. Every step will be a challenge that not everyone can overcome." However, Amora, with a heart full of hope and strength she had never recognized within herself, did not back down. She understood that this journey would not be easy, but she also knew that if she did not face the challenges, she would never find the freedom she sought. She looked at Lysander and declared, "I am not afraid. I will face everything. No matter what the world beyond is like, I will not give up. I will find a reason to keep going, even when passing on is not the end." Lysander gazed at her thoughtfully, and for a moment, he felt a spark of hope in Amora's eyes, something he had not felt in a long time. He could not stop her, but he could not help but warn her about the dangers of the world beyond. In that moment, something began to shift within him, and he realized that perhaps forgiveness and moving forward were the very things both he and Amora needed to find peace. One day, while Amora and Lysander wandered through the endless corridors of the infinite space, they unexpectedly came across an unusual sight. Before them stood a mysterious door, suspended in mid-air as though held by an invisible force. It was unlike anything they had seen before. The door emitted a shimmering light that constantly changed color between deep blue, silver, and warm gold, as if it were crafted from distant stars. The light from the door not only illuminated the surrounding space but also created a gentle ripple, as if the universe itself were whispering, breathing, living. The door seemed to belong to no space in this world but rather acted as a gateway to parallel universes, to lives they had never known. Carved on its surface were ancient patterns, strange and intricate symbols, as if telling the stories of souls who had passed through before, each mark an echo of a journey either completed or forever unfinished. Lysander stood still, a trace of concern crossing his face, and his gaze never left the door. He slowly took a step back, caution evident in his movement. "This is no ordinary door," he said, his voice low and serious, as though he knew too well the danger that lay beyond. "It's called the Door of Time. From what I know, souls who choose to step through it are swept into an uncertain flow. Some say it leads to a distant place, a realm of eternal peace where the soul can find rest, free from suffering and worry. But there are rumors that it's a one-way path, a place where those who enter are trapped forever, never to return." Amora moved closer, the light from the door reflecting in her curious eyes, as though something invisible drew her towards it. "If it can lead us to peace, why shouldn't we try?" she said, her voice filled with determination. "We've been here too long, stuck between memories and regrets. Perhaps this is our chance to find what we've always longed for: peace, release. We have nothing left to lose." Lysander, however, remained cautious, stepping closer to her, his tone stern. "Amora, you don't understand," he said, his voice tense. "This door isn't just a choice. It's a trial. Those who step through must confront their deepest fears and the guilt buried in their hearts. The ghosts of the past will resurface, haunting them. If they can't overcome it, they'll be trapped in the darkness of their own souls, forever lost." Amora turned to Lysander, her eyes filled with resolve, a quiet strength in her voice. "I don't want to live in regret forever," she said. "I want to find the answer. If I have to face my own ghosts, I'm ready. Because only by overcoming them can we truly live, even in a world of souls." Lysander looked at her, a mix of concern and admiration in his eyes. He could see her determination, but he also knew the path they were about to take was fraught with dangers. Together, they stood before the door, its light seemingly embracing them, promising both freedom and peril. This was no ordinary door, it was a fateful crossroads, a step that could change everything forever, not just for them, but for all the souls who had passed through and those waiting on the other side. As Amora stepped through the door of light without hesitation, a surge of energy coursed through her like a tidal wave, washing away every shred of doubt and leaving behind a mixture of awe and serenity. For a brief moment, it felt as though the entire universe held its breath, only to release it in a long, deliberate exhale that propelled her into a realm unlike anything she had ever known. She found herself standing in the heart of an enchanted forest, where everything seemed to pulse with a life force she had never experienced before. Towering ancient trees reached skyward, their massive trunks etched with patterns that seemed carved by the passage of millennia. Their dense, emerald canopies formed a sprawling dome overhead, sheltering the world below in a serene, otherworldly glow. Beams of light filtered through the intricate latticework of leaves, cascading down in shimmering pillars that danced like countless fragments of a broken sunrise. Beneath her feet, a lush carpet of glowing vegetation stretched out in every direction, radiating a gentle luminescence. Each step Amora took seemed to awaken the forest, the soft glows intensified with her movement, as if the ground itself was responding to her presence. Streams wove their way through the forest, their waters so crystalline that she could see the sparkling gemstones lining their beds. The quiet gurgling of the rivers harmonized with the whisper of the wind threading through the treetops, creating a melody both gentle and brimming with life. Around her, strange creatures emerged, moving with an ethereal grace. They resembled no animals she had ever known. Some had wings that shimmered like tiny constellations in flight, while others bore indistinct, almost transparent forms that became visible only when caught in the beams of light. Their eyes, though silent, radiated a profound wisdom and understanding that transcended words. Amora soon realized that this was no ordinary forest. It was a realm of souls, a place where emotions, memories, and time wove together to craft a singular reality. Every creature, every river, and even the wind itself seemed to carry stories that could not be found in the physical world. Despite its overwhelming beauty and mystery, this place did not intimidate her. Instead, it filled her with a sense of profound peace, as if every burden she had ever carried had been lifted. Her heart swelled with emotions she couldn't quite name, a mix of wonder, familiarity, and belonging. This world, with all its splendor and enigma, felt both foreign and intimately known, as if she had spent her entire life waiting to step foot here. In the sacred stillness of the forest, Amora understood that she had found something greater than herself, a missing piece of her soul she hadn't even known she was searching for. As Amora was immersed in the mysterious beauty of the spirit world, the atmosphere around her suddenly shifted, bringing with it a sense of heaviness and darkness. An unusual presence, one that could not be clearly seen but was so powerful it seemed to restrain everything around it, began to make itself known. The entire space seemed to freeze for a moment as the sky, once glowing brightly, gradually dimmed, now covered by a massive black shadow slowly creeping in from the horizon. It had no distinct shape, but was instead a swirling mass of darkness, twisting like a violent storm. Its presence carried a cold, suffocating feeling, as if an invisible force were crushing every cell in her body. The air became suddenly oppressive, and everything seemed to tremble slightly under the weight of the spreading darkness. The magical creatures, the spirits who had lived in this world for so long, began to scatter, hastily retreating into darker areas. Their eyes were filled with fear, as if they sensed the danger approaching. These beings, once thought to be invulnerable, now appeared weak and helpless in the face of this shadow. They disappeared quickly into the mist, like ghosts hiding in silence, leaving only an eerie stillness in the vast space. Lysander, her companion, suddenly froze, his muscles tensing in heightened alertness. His eyes widened, never leaving the dark mass approaching them. "Amora," he said, his voice low and serious, as though each word he spoke was heavier than the steps of the Shadowmancer. "That is the Shadowmancer." Amora looked at Lysander, her heart filled with curiosity and confusion. Lysander was not one to be easily frightened, Yet the tension in him was undeniable. He continued to explain, his voice growing more somber with each passing second. The Shadowmancer is not just any ordinary creature. It is the embodiment of deep fear, of the painful memories that souls have yet to release. The souls that are trapped here in this world must face it. Anyone who enters this realm, anyone who wishes to continue on their journey, must face the Shadowmancer. It's not just a trial, it is the final judgment. It decides whether a soul can continue on its path or if it will remain trapped forever in the endless cycle of its own fear, the pain it can never escape. Amora could feel the tension in Lysander's words, but instead of being afraid, her heart was filled with an odd sense of calm. She didn't feel threatened or weak. Instead, a powerful feeling, an urge she could not ignore, kept her steady, her gaze fixed on the massive shadow drawing nearer. This feeling was not fear, but an unwavering determination. She understood that this was not the time to flee, it was the time to face it and accept it. If this is what is trapping the souls here, then we must fight, she said, her voice strong, full of resolve, her eyes burning with determination. Her words were like a declaration, a commitment that she would not back down from any challenge, no matter how great. Lysander, though initially hesitant and somewhat reluctant, finally saw the unshakable resolve in Amora's eyes. For a long moment, he looked at her, then sighed as though he had accepted that there was no choice but to confront this shadow. He nodded, though worry still lingered in his heart. "We'll face it together," he said, his voice filled with admiration for her bravery. As the dark mass drew nearer, the air grew even heavier. Each step the Shadowmancer took seemed to cause the ground beneath their feet to shake. Strange, eerie sounds, like whispers from 1,000 lost souls, echoed around them. The air grew thicker, as though it were being suffocated by the very shadow itself. But Amora did not retreat. She knew that to continue her journey, she and Lysander not only had to defeat the Shadowmancer but also face and overcome the deep fears and painful waves within themselves. Only by overcoming these mental barriers could they truly be freed, moving forward into what lay ahead. Amora felt every icy gust of wind blow from the massive shadow as she stepped closer to the Shadowmancer. Each of her steps seemed to stretch on forever, and the air around her grew heavier, filled with a sense of unease. Every sense in her body screamed, warning her that this was no simple challenge. The cold wind carried the scent of death, a reminder that this darkness would not be easily subdued. But Amora's heart, now illuminated by an unshakable will and determination, urged her forward. She recalled the important lessons Lysander had shared with her during their journey, the advice about the strength of patience, respect, and forgiveness. She couldn't forget the warm moments she had shared with the spirits she encountered, those who had shown her that love and understanding were the keys to freeing all pain. From these friendships, their empathy, and the spiritual strength they had given her, Amora realized that the Shadowmancer could not be defeated by violence. In fact, violence might be the one thing that made this shadow grow even stronger. She couldn't defeat it with punches or a sharp sword, but could only face it in another way, with inner liberation. She took a deep breath, feeling the cold air numb every cell of her body. Her eyes locked onto the ever-growing shadow that continuously growled, as if ready to consume everything in its path. But instead of preparing for a life or death battle, Amora decided to do something completely different. She closed her eyes and began to face herself. She could no longer see the shadow, but its sound still echoed in her mind, like a taunt. Amora turned inward, where the painful memories she had never fully freed herself from remained. She recalled all the mistakes that had tortured her for so long, mistakes she had never dared confront. She saw the faces of those she had loved and lost, the unfulfilled dreams she never had the chance to finish, and even the fears she had never admitted. Those images returned like ghosts, surrounding her mind and pushing her into an emotional chaos. However, instead of resisting, instead of being afraid, Amora chose to accept all of the pain and darkness. She no longer ran from them. She faced them and realized that only by accepting the pain could she be freed from it. When she opened her eyes, a miracle happened. The Shadowmancer no longer appeared as a threatening shadow. It seemed to begin transforming, from a terrifying form to a faint, almost comforting light, like the faint glow of dawn after a destructive storm. The space around her also began to feel peaceful, no longer heavy and threatening. Amora realized that the true nature of the Shadowmancer was not a monstrous entity, but rather a reflection of the fears and suffering that had yet to be released within each soul. It symbolized the emotions that she and other spirits had carried throughout their lives. "I forgive," Amora whispered, not to the Shadowmancer, but to herself. Those simple words, though soft, held immense power, and they gradually caused the darkness around her to dissipate. It wasn't a forgiveness for a specific enemy, but a forgiveness for the fear and regret within her own heart. Those words acted like a wave, washing away all attachments, all guilt, and finally, Amora felt an unprecedented lightness in her soul. As the darkness slowly faded, the Shadowmancer did not retreat because it was defeated. It had no more strength to cling to. It was a reflection, an image of unresolved emotions, and now, as Amora liberated those emotions, it had no place to exist. The memories and feelings that had been imprisoned were now freed, and a sense of relief and tranquility washed over her, as if a part of her had been set free. Amora no longer felt weighed down, no longer threatened by the darkness. Instead, she felt something new, a sense of freedom she had never experienced before. Lysander stood not far away, his eyes filled with amazement and admiration. He couldn't believe his eyes. He had seen this girl face many challenges, but this was the first time he saw her truly face herself with such strength. He realized that Amora had done what few souls dared attempt, face the darkness within herself and achieve a true victory. Not a victory through power or violence, but a victory through courage and acceptance. "You did it," Lysander whispered, his voice full of respect and awe. With every word of forgiveness Amora whispered, the darkness surrounding the Shadowmancer seemed to retreat, becoming fainter and less oppressive. Her words resonated not just in the air but deep within her own soul. The memories that once weighed heavily on her, harsh words spoken in anger, irrevocable losses, and mistakes that haunted her now turned into fading images dissolving into nothingness. Each time she chose to let go of a pain, a fragment of the Shadowmancer disintegrated, as if melting away under the gentle warmth of a rising sun. Amora felt an overwhelming sense of lightness, as though an immense burden had been lifted from her shoulders. She closed her eyes, not in fear but in profound peace. The whispers of the wind around her transformed into a soothing melody, like the songs of spirits finally set free. The Shadowmancer, once the embodiment of her deepest fears, now appeared as a faint shimmer, barely clinging to existence. As the last trace of darkness faded entirely, Amora opened her eyes to find herself standing in a different realm. There was no more darkness, no more looming threats, only an all-encompassing light, warm and serene. The space radiated brilliance without blinding her, as if crafted from a harmony of golden rays and tranquil memories. She realized this was the reward of liberation, a place reserved for souls brave enough to confront their innermost demons. Nearby, Lysander stood, his expression a mixture of pride and awe. "Amora," he said softly, his voice tinged with admiration. "You've done what so few dare to attempt. Because of you, not just yourself but all of us now have the chance to begin anew." Amora's journey reached its culmination when she discovered a door of radiant light standing tall before her. Unlike any other door she had encountered, this one didn't merely shine, it seemed to breathe, exuding vibrant energy that felt alive, as though life itself was beckoning her to return. The light wasn't blinding, it was tender, wrapping around her like a gentle embrace from a long-lost friend. Amora stepped forward, her movements slow but purposeful, toward the door. Before placing her hand on it, she turned back to look at Lysander and the souls who had journeyed with her. In their eyes, she saw pride and peace. "Amora," Lysander said, his voice resonating with the space around them, "remember, this world will always be here, waiting if you ever need it. But your life is calling you. Go, and live the life you've fought so hard to reclaim." As Amora touched the door, a warmth enveloped her entire being. The door slowly opened, and a flood of brilliant light poured into the space. Amora closed her eyes and let herself be carried away. She felt her heartbeat return, her eyes fluttering open to the familiar light of the world she had left behind. The sound of birds chirping, the rustling of leaves in the breeze, and the soft earth beneath her hands reminded her she had made it back. But Amora was no longer the girl she once was. Her heart now carried the lessons from the realm of souls, and her spirit was clearer than ever. She understood that passing on was not the end, but a transition, a doorway leading to deeper possibilities and self-awareness. With a gentle smile on her face, Amora stood up, feeling each step on the earth as if it were the first time she had truly lived. She had returned, not just as a human, but as a soul that had matured, carrying courage and hope to face whatever life might bring. Amora did not return to her physical body. Instead, she stepped through the final door as a free soul, radiant with an inner light she had never known before, brimming with hope and purpose. The physical realm, with all its constraints and limitations, had become nothing more than a distant memory. She no longer felt the weight of her body, the sting of pain, or the suffocating grip of fears that once held her captive. Instead, she experienced an absolute sense of relief, as if every invisible chain had been broken, every ancient wound healed. Amora felt herself released from the confines of time and space. No longer was she a mere individual, bound by mortality, but a luminous entity, a vibrant source of energy carrying pure love, profound understanding, and an intense desire to share her light with others. She saw herself not as a small fragment of the universe but as an inseparable part of a greater existence, one where all things were interconnected by an invisible thread of life and meaning. As Amora sank deeper into this state, she realized a profound truth that had always existed but she had never fully understood: departure is not the end, but a transformation, a journey from one form to another. She understood that every soul is on a path of healing and growth, whether they are suffering, lost, or have found peace. She saw the flickering souls in the darkness, carrying burdens of memories, wounds that had yet to heal, and unspeakable pain. But she also felt that, deep within them, light still existed, waiting for the opportunity to shine once more. Amora understood that redemption was not instantaneous. It was a long journey, sometimes spanning countless lifetimes, but ultimately, every soul would find its way back to its purest essence. She not only accepted this truth but also found her purpose within it. With quiet resolve and unwavering belief, she chose to remain in this state of freedom, to become a guide for others. Amora no longer viewed the world through the lens of life and departure, but through a greater reality, where existence has no boundaries, and where every ending is simply a new beginning. She realized her mission was not over. She would be the light in the darkness, the beacon for those souls still lost in the shadows. She would be a symbol of hope, patience, and forgiveness, helping other souls navigate through their own storms to find the brilliant light that always awaits them on the other side. Thank you for taking the time to watch the video When Departure is Not the End, a soul's journey after a near-death experience. We hope the insights shared in the video have provided you with thoughtful reflections and a deeper understanding of the spirit world and the journey beyond the physical body. If you found the video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out on future engaging content. Thank you so much, and see you in the next videos.